Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada ki, ISKCON founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki, Prem Segaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivas Adi Gaura Bhakti Vrinda ki, Shri Shri Radha Krishna Go Gopakopinath, Shyamakunda Radha Kundi Giri Govardhana ki, Shri Vrindavan Dhama ki, Shri Mayapur Dhama ki, Ganga Mai ki, Jamuna Mai ki, Bhakti Devi ki, Tulasi Devi ki, Samaveta Bhakti Vrinda ki, Jainitai Gaura Premanadi. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Yam Dharma Kamartha Vimukti Kama Bhajanta Ishtam Gatim Apnuvanti Kim Kashisho Ratyapi Deham Avyayam Karotu Me Dabra Dayo Vimokshanam Yam Dharma Kamartha Vimukti Kama Bhajanti Ishtam Gatim Apnuvanti Kim Shashishoratyapi Deham Avyayam Karotu me dabradayo vimokshanam Yam dharma kamartha vimukti kama Bhajanta ishtam gatim apnuvanti Kim shashishoratyapi deham avyayam Karotu me dabradayo vimokshanam Yam, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who, Dharma Kama, Artha Vimukti Kama, persons who desire the four principles of religion, economic development, sense gratification, and salvation. Bhajanta, by worshiping. Ishtam, the objective. Gatim, destination. Apnuvanti, can achieve. Kim, what to speak of. Cha, also. Ashisha, other benedictions. Rati, he bestows. Api, even. Deham, a body. Avyayam, spiritual. Karotu, may he bestow benediction. May, unto me. Adabradaya, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is unlimitedly merciful. Vimokshanam, liberation from the present danger and from the material world. Here's some here. Adabra means the Supreme Personality of Godhead, so that means most magicians of the world are chanting the Lord's name. Translation. After worshiping the Supreme Personality of Godhead, those who are interested in the four principles of religion, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation, attain from him what they desire. What then is to be said of other benedictions? Indeed, sometimes the Lord gives the spiritual body to such ambitious worshippers. May that Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is unlimitedly merciful, bestow upon me the benediction of liberation from this present danger and from the materialistic way of life. Purport. Some men within this material world are akami, free from material desire. Some are ambitious to get more and more material profit, and some desire fulfillment in religious life, economic development, sense gratification, and finally liberation. Akamas sarvakamo va moksha kama udadadihi tivrena bhakti yogena yajeta purusham param. Bhagavatam 2.3.10. It is recommended that whatever one's position, whether one demands no material profit, all material profit, or ultimately liberation, one should offer his obedient devotion to the service to the Lord, and one will get what he desires. Krishna is so kind. Ye yatamam prapadyante tamstadaiva bhajamyaham. The Lord reciprocates. Whatever even an ordinary living entity wants, Krishna gives. Krishna is situated in everyone's heart, and he gives that which is desired by the living entity. Ishwaras sarvabhutanam hridesher junatishtati brahmayan sarvabhutani yantra rudhani mayaya. The Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart, O Arjuna, and is directing the wanderings of all living entities, who are seated as on a machine made of material energy. Bhagavad Gita 18:61. The Lord gives everyone an opportunity to fulfill his ambitions. Even such a devotee as Dhruva Maharaj wanted the material benediction of a kingdom greater than that of his father, and although he received a spiritual body, he also got the kingdom. For the Supreme Personality of Godhead does not disappoint anyone who takes shelter of his lotus feet. Therefore, since Gajendra, king of the elephants, had surrendered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead to get free from the present danger and, indirectly, from the present danger of materialistic life, why should the Supreme Personality of Godhead not fulfill his desire? So the principle is being pointed out here that Krishna is actually involved with everything. Whatever one does, whatever one sees, experiences, Krishna's involved. The reason we can experience is because of Krishna's involvement. Otherwise, we won't be able to. We're not in control of the senses. We're not in control of anything, right? So, the Krishna being involved in everything, then that is the underlying aspect of the spiritual understanding. One can see how Krishna is in everything. Then, by seeing Krishna in everything, one can then remember Krishna in his personal form, right? Because him being in everything, pervading everything, that's Super Soul and Brahman. And so, the mechanics of it, that's Brahman. The control of it, that's Paramatma. So then, but why is Krishna doing this? What does Krishna want from being involved in this? Right? So the point is the reciprocation between the living entity and the Lord based on affection. That's what the Lord's interested in. Right? Other things aren't very interesting to him because it's all him anyway. So that's not the big deal. Right? The point, and he's perfect, so whatever he desires, it happens. So all the things that we would consider that we work hard for Krishna, that's just automatic. So then that's not the interesting point. The interesting point is the interaction with him, with him as a person. So, yeah. Yes. So, just on the point of we don't control the horizontal and we don't control the vertical, then there was a story in that context where there was a man, a criminal, and he was running from the police. Well, I guess that there had been some kind of, how you say, back and forth, there had been some gunfight involved, so he was, dangerous. So he was running down an alley. He got to the end of the alley. There's the brick wall, right? Standard thing. Hollywood always has to have a brick wall, right? Like that. How many alleys do you know that has a brick wall that goes across it, right? I had never seen one, but somehow in Hollywood there's always one, right? Somehow, it's like that. It's just like, otherwise why is it an alley? Because you got to be able to get through, right? So, whatever. So, then you have this brick wall, so he goes and jumps the wall, and then there's a gunshot, and then he comes down on the other side, and he thinks he's okay, and all that, and then there's someone there that's greeting him, right? Very nice person, and this side, well-dressed and everything. And, then he understood that actually he got shot and died, right? So then, they took him and that, and they asked him what he would like, and then he started saying things he would like, and they were happening. And then, being the mentality he had, then whatever he was into, whatever he wanted, he was getting. This person that was there, they just say, I would like this, or how would you like it to go? He'd get into gambling, like to win. So this was going on, and after 2 weeks of everything he wanted, it exactly happened that way. Nothing different. And so he was getting frustrated because everything he wanted is there, so there is nothing special. And then he turns to this other person and he says, I don't understand. I thought being in heaven would be nice. And the other person turned to him and said, who said you're in heaven? Right? Yeah. So, in other words, that everything works out just the way you want it is actually overrated, because if everything went exactly the way you wanted, you would get bored. Because it'll happen, right? The interest is you don't know what'll happen, how it'll work out. That's what's of interest. But that it happens just the way you want it every time. Right? So for us it's an interest because it basically never happens, and occasionally it happens, or at least we see in the ads that it happens, or in some other kind of storyline it happens. So then we have hope that maybe it'll happen. But for Krishna, he's such a sankalpa, it always happens. So for him, then there's no interest in it happening, because this guy got bored in 2 weeks. Now imagine eternity, right? So, therefore, what's interesting to Krishna is the interaction with the devotees based on love. That's what's interesting, because the organization of things, accomplishing things, that's not what's interesting. It's only the accomplishment of things in the context of the interaction with the devotees, that affection being expressed, and the increasing of that expression. That's what's interesting to him. That's why we see the higher it goes up on the scale, then the more it's about increasing the intensity. And that most dynamic is coming through the pastimes in Braj, where they're with Krishna, then they're not with Krishna. So not being with Krishna enhances being with Krishna. While in Vaikuntha, then basically they're always with Krishna. And so it doesn't have the same intensity. So this aspect that Krishna is in everything, he can be seen in everything, he's the mechanics of everything, that's just for Krishna's standard stuff, because he is. It's not something out of the ordinary. But from that, to be able to appreciate him as a person and what he would like done, that's the devotional part. That's the part that attracts him. That, we can see everything connected to him, see him in everything, and that's the liberated platform. And we know how much the acharyas appreciate liberation. Right? So again, overrated. So it just doesn't work out. It's not a nice thing. That's why they say it's hellish. Right? Just like fulfilling all your material desires is hellish, being liberated is hellish. So the only thing that's actually positive for the soul is that interaction with the Lord. That loving relationships with the Lord. That's it. There isn't something else. So, since he is everything anyway, that means all living entities are having their desires fulfilled simply by Krishna's arrangement. He being super soul, he knows what you want. In fact, he's guiding the living entity. He puts you in contact. You wanted something from last life, and you have the karma for it. So this life, then it comes up. And Krishna reminds you, hey, you wanted this. Here it is. And then depending upon how we react and how we deal, then that will create the further development. So Krishna is just fulfilling the desires of the living entities. They can't do it themselves. We think I'm the controller, I'm the enjoyer, I'm the friend, I'm doing all this and that. But no, we're not. We just desire, Krishna takes care. So if he's doing that just for all the living entities, then why he wouldn't be doing that for the devotees? Right? So the devotee has some desire, then that's given by Krishna, not something else. We may say, oh, but you shouldn't ask Krishna for these things. Yeah, that's right, because you can get more by asking higher. So it'd be like going to a billionaire and asking him for 10 rupees, It would be a little foolish. Yes, we're building this big temple here and all that, and, we'd like to know if you'd like to, give a donation of 10 rupees, When the guy comes back and says, yeah, hey, I got Warren Buffett gave me 10 rupees, then would we go, wow, cool, Or we would say, that's a little stupid, no? You could have asked him for a bit more. Put a few more zeros on that, But, so that's the whole thing, that's why it's not done. He's giving for everyone anyway, so why be like everyone who just wants all these material things? We should be endeavoring for developing that personal relationship with them. That's the specialness. But these other things just happen anyway. You have these desires, Krishna takes care. Right? But our focus is on these higher. So the thing is it's always connected with him, not that, there's this material method that I can get things. And then there's Krishna. I could, as an option, try to get it from Krishna. That's an illusion. No. Every living entity, down to the little bug crawling around in your house, their desires are being fulfilled by Krishna, no one else. And so therefore, then to think that there's another system, that's why the transcendentalists, then if they have material desire, they go to Krishna. Right? Kardama Muni has material desire. He goes to Krishna. Then he's married to Devahuti, they have their family life, everything goes nicely, and then he's able to, absorb himself in the Lord. So, point is they go to the Lord. That's why these things are there. So the idea is that, oh no, this is material, so I won't go to the Lord. Right? Then if you're pious, you go to the demigods. If you're not pious, you think, I'm going to do this because I'm a demigod, right? You know, like that. So that's the thing. It just gets distracted from reality because it's only Krishna that fulfills desires. But the idea is that why we should be approaching Krishna for these lower desires when those won't actually satisfy the soul. The soul is only satisfied by the higher desire of relationship with the Lord. That's now something of value. But in any case, anybody who's intelligent goes to the Lord for anything. So that's where we see Gajendra, and here is directly then going for this aspect to be freed from this difficulty he's in, but at the same time, in the longer term, to be freed from the material entanglement, because that's how he got himself there. Right? If he wasn't the king of elephants and cutting his profile, then the crocodile wouldn't be biting onto his leg now. Right? So the point is, because of material desire, that's why he's in this position. So if he gives up material desire, that gives up the problem of material difficulties coming up. But ultimately, then it has to come to that point of affection. Because that's the real point. So then having that, so well, seems to have changed. Oh, 19, okay, there we go. Yes. So, by worshiping the Lord, then whatever it is that you want, that can be obtained. And then it's just a matter of, but what do you want to attain? That's the real thing. So, for the pure devotees, then it's only that devotion to the Lord. Other things aren't so interesting. It means they can be gotten, but we've been getting things our whole life. Think about it. We've been fulfilling our desires our whole life. Are we satisfied? No. Ask a younger person. No. Ask an old person. No. Right? Read in the history books about dead persons. No. Right? It's just no one fulfilled their desire. So therefore, why work for something that is already destined to fail from the start? Right? You know, especially in the modern age where everyone's so obsessed with success, then why would they pick a path that is not successful? Right? That's it. Has anybody in the material world actually controlled the material world and had it work the way it wants? No. Have they enjoyed, right? We read in history, yes. You know, this person in history, he was known for being the happiest man and enjoyed to the fullest. Right? Ever read that? No, okay, and we probably have a representation of a lot of countries here and a lot of years in school. That means no one in any culture anywhere has ever read that about anybody. Right? So it doesn't exist, right? And anybody was the friend of everybody, everyone liked them? No. So those are the three big things that people go for in the material world. I'm the controller, I'm the enjoyer, and I'm the friend of everybody. And since no one has been successful in it, you know, in the Western, because we're, you know, the Western's got to be good, right? But in the last 3,000 years, then it hasn't worked, right? So based on the Greek concept of philosophy, lifestyle, enjoyment, it won't get you anything. So if it didn't get them, if it's not getting anyone now, it will not get anyone in the future. So therefore, following in the footsteps of the Pulindas has never actually satisfied anyone, including the Pulindas. Right? Yes. Okay, any questions or comments on this? Yes. He has a question. He has a mic. But you get the mic, so now you can ask the question.
Okay, thank you, Maharaj. Maharaj, my question is, as practicing devotees and having this knowledge that we can never be satisfied with material acquisitions.
Yes.
Should we, and we also hear we should approach Krishna for everything. So should we approach Krishna for some material desire? Like, for example, yesterday someone called me and said their small, like 8-9-year-old son, who I've known for quite a few years, has just been paralyzed from the waist down, is in the ICU. And he's a very nice devotee, does deity worship and chants, And she asked me, please pray for him to recover from his paralyzation. These doctors say like it'll be like this for life, and do pujas in Jagannath Mandir and do pujas for Nrsingadev. So, what to do?
What to do? So, what is the point of the child recovering? What would be the benefit?
He can preach Krishna consciousness perhaps more effectively.
Yeah. So therefore, then what's the problem with approaching Krishna for some adjustment? Right? If it's so that he can go on to become, get his college scholarship and go into the, how you say, the NBL or something like that, then, you might not consider it so important.
And then also we can think Krishna knows what's best. He's controlling.
That's that. But the point is it something that's nice? Is it nice that kids are paralyzed?
Well, he's paralyzed from the waist down. He can be a lifelong brahmachari.
Okay, one way of looking at it. Is he interested in being a lifelong brahmachari?
I don't know. I can't talk to him. He's in the ICU.
Yeah, and would anybody else be interested in? That's one of the options for being a lifelong brahmachari. You see the brahmacharis standing around the balcony and going, "Wow, if we jump off and we land just right, that we just, get paralyzed from the waist down, then we can be a brahmachari for life." And then one of the other brahmacharis goes, "Oh, no, but what about the hands? The hands are frisky, So then he goes, "Oh, yeah, if we were a quadriplegic, then we could be a brahmachari for life." And then someone says, "No, but what about, the eyes and the ears and things like that?" And yeah, I'm not sure that that's the major recommended path for brahmachari. I mean, if you're looking at the glass half full kind of, or half, like that kind of, then yes, you could look at that to the bright side. But the point is that there's the natural compassion, there's friendship between living entities. That's the natural relationship in the spiritual world. In the material world, then it takes on the form of respect for those senior, then that friendship with equals and compassion to junior, and where you just ignore those who are not interested in God consciousness. Indifference. So it takes on those forms. So therefore that friendship where you want to see the other's benefit, because the point is devotional service means engaging the senses in the Lord's service. So if all their senses work, then they can engage all those in the Lord's service. So naturally then it would be something that would work. So it's not a problem. But we're seeing is how they can benefit and preach and this and that. But along with that, then why not pray for the mentality to be engaged in Krishna's service? Not just they have the situation in which they can be engaged, but also the mentality. So then all that together is not a problem. Okay? Yes. Yes. All the way to the back, straight back. To the pillar, that side.
Thank you for the class, Maharaj.
Thank you.
I just wanted to explore a little bit more about what you said about Krishna's interest in relationships.
Yes.
If he is really controlling everything, he's also controlling that aspect of relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So in what sense is that element of interest understood in relationship to Krishna's experience?
But interest meaning ours or his?
His.
Because he's in control, but there's free will, because the living entities are all independent in that way they have their desires. He's got unlimited independence and everyone else has a limited amount. But they use that limited independence in relationship to loving exchanges with him. That's what's interesting.
But he also knows everything.
Yes, but the point is we're taking it that that's the prominent feature of Krishna. his knowing and controlling, because that's what we would love to do. We would love to know all, see all, and control all, because we're not. But for him, he is, so that's not the interesting part. The sarvagya aspect to him is not of interest. He has it, it's just part of him, so it's not that he has a problem with it, The point is that the mugdata aspect, where Yogamaya then arranges, that's much more attractive to him.
And then he's somewhat covered by his sweetness aspect, and he's not really aware of the exchange of love until it actually happens?
Yes. Because otherwise, how do you get the sweetness? Because when there's majesty, it means everything's known. It's that he's the controller, he's God. Right? Vaikuntha means he's God. And sweetness just means he's a beautiful person, a beautiful boy.
So he drops that sarvagya aspect in that relationship.
Yes, and that's what you see is that the uniqueness of the Brajbasis, they don't have it either. It's not that they don't know who he is. It's just that's not the reason they like him. It's just like the mother likes the son despite whatever's going on. So he's just a guy, she loves him, he becomes the prime minister of the country, it doesn't change it. It's not that now her love increases, it's just the same. She's still harassing him, he's working too hard, he's not getting enough rest and all that, and he's not eating properly, and he's got to take care of himself, and he runs the country. So I'm saying it's just, it doesn't change. So that's the thing, is that the Braja Bhakti, it's not based on the Aishwarya aspect. It's only based on the nature of the relationship itself. Well, in Vaikuntha, relationships are there, but they're based on the principle he's God. But in Braj, then it's not. It has nothing to do with he's God. He's God, that just happens to be who he is, but they don't really care. That's not why they like him.
So what he enjoys is that sweetness of the mystery of the relationship.
Yes. Like that. So that's how it comes. He has ways that he would like to enjoy with the devotees based on their desire. Like, why is he lifting Govardhan Hill? To chastise Indra, does he need to lift Govardhan Hill? Right? He could just show up there and just tell him, "Hey, stop being an idiot." Or he could do so many things. He could just arrange by his desire he chokes on a peanut or something, right? Standard way to get rid of big mafiosos, right? So it's he doesn't do that. He's raising Govardhan Hill. Everybody is under the hill, and for I say the original 24/7, they have no hunger, no thirst, they're not tired, no fatigue, anything. They're just absorbed in being with him and seeing him. Because he's so nice, they want to be with him all the time. But in the standard pastimes, they're only with him for certain times. When he's at Nanda Bhavan, then Mother Jashoda's with him. Then he goes out to the fields, and the cowherd boys are with him. Right? Then he goes to Radhika, and the gopis are with him. Then he comes back with the cowherd boys are with him. Comes back to Nanda Bhavan. Then Mother Jashoda's with him. Then he goes out at night. The gopis are with him. So no one's with him 24 hours.
So he's enjoying the longing of the devotees to be with him.
Yes. So they have that desire. So he's fulfilling that desire. But in how it will be arranged and all that, then that's many times then he just leaves that how Yogamaya knows what to do, so she'll figure it out, because energy means unlimited variety.
How about, does that work with us who are not on that level?
It means the principle is the same. That's why men like to get together with women, because of the variety. It's the same thing that drives them nuts, right? So it's the whole thing like that. For the women, the stableness. So the principle is there. What works in the material world is a reflection of there. There isn't anything else. The idea is that, there's spiritual life and there's the Shastras. Then there's, we're in the real world. That is a statement of someone in absolute total illusion. Because there is only Krishna. It's only controlled by Krishna. Nothing works other than Krishna's rules. So anything that goes on in the modern day is only, if they're getting success, it's only because they're following the rules, though they don't know it. And then with time, they get proud, and then it stops working because they stop following the rules. So therefore, why work with speculative rules when you can just work with the original rules given in the Shastra? They always work. You know what I'm saying? So this idea that there's something separate from Guru, Krishna, and Shastra is an absolute illusion. Like that. It has no substance for anyone with intelligence and maturity. Bhagavatam says that very clearly. We have so many people that are so materially qualified being called fools because they think the material energy functions separate from the Lord. Okay, I'm Krishna conscious, then it connects with Krishna. But when I'm not, and I just have to be practical, or I just have to get things done, then there's a method that things get done without Krishna. That's an illusion. Right? So that has to be given up. Is that Krishna he desires how things work, and then it'll work out. How it'll work out, Yoga Maya works it out. So for us, then, here with us, but how are we dealing with Krishna? Now to go directly to your question. So does it work like that with us? Now, why do we follow the rules and regulations? Right? Because we know that's what you're supposed to do. By doing that, then, I know if I follow the devotional lifestyle, then it's less problem. Lifestyle in the mode of goodness is less problem than one in passion ignorance. I don't want problem. I've had enough of that since time immemorial. We'd like to...
Say we don't follow the rules and regulations, but we have the desire. Does Krishna move our desire back into the right perspective?
Means you're talking about a devotee or non-devotee?
Devotee. Devotee is sincere, but he still doesn't follow exactly the principles of devotion.
You get both. Here, let's just finish the last one and then we'll go into this one. So, therefore, because we're relating to Krishna according to rules and regulations, he reciprocates. Therefore, Krishna's dealing with us as Sarvagya. So he knows what's going on, he controls that whole thing. The Brajbasis deal with him, they are only dealing on the platform of that prema. So there's no Sarvagya. So he's not dealing with them in that as Lakshmi Narayan. He's dealing with them as Radha and Krishna. Right? Mm-hmm. So then for us, that where we're dealing in mixed devotional service, either more pious that we follow the rules or impious that we don't follow the rules, that the fulfillment of material desire, either way, Krishna will do it in such a way that you lose interest in that material desire. So either by not giving it in so much difficulty, or by giving it and then you actually see that it doesn't actually give you anything. Or a combination. So much trouble, and that you're starting to get frustrated, then you get it and see it as absolutely useless. So Krishna arranges. Because the point is that on the principle of sarva dharmam parityaja, that you're giving up the pursuance of religious activities, that means following the rules, for the benefit you get from those rules. Because religion means I'm following because of the benefit I'll get. Right? I'm a good person, I should get good results. So, but it should be I'm following this because it will please Krishna. Right? I have to perform an activity to express the affection. So now, would it be better to perform a pious or an impious one? Pious. Right? Because Krishna is all pure, so that means it's all pious. That means you would want to use stuff that's connected to him. Right? Like that. Just like I want to please a senior devotee, do I bring him, a crab souffle? No. It's the best in Louisiana. You don't get better than that. It is the place cooked by the guy at the right time. It's fresh, it's hot. But, so much effort went into it. But is it really going to be pleasing? No. The aspect that you went to so much trouble, yes. But in actuality, you were not thinking about the person. You were thinking about yourself, because we like that. But Krishna, so that's the point, is when we follow the pious, at least it's something that Krishna likes. Though now, is it actually about Krishna, or is it about that I can get the benefits from that? But if we're not following the rules, or not performing the pious activities, is it really about Krishna? We can say, no, but it's sincerely for Krishna. Yes, but it's not as good as if you did a pious activity for Krishna. And piety is defined by Shastra, not by popular opinion. In a sense. So in other words, there is rules. So we can say, we don't have to follow the rules. But what does that mean, not following the rules? The Paramahamsa doesn't need to follow the rules because they're always engaged in Krishna's service. And so what are they going to do? They're going to do things to please Krishna. And what does that look like? It looks like the same form as the rules, but they're not doing it because it's rules.
But if the intention is to follow, but it falls short of the actual
That's another thing, because the situation in the material world aren't ideal. But we're not saying that these unideal things are perfect. And it's more preferable to function in an unideal than in an ideal, seeing that the ideal, that's more Vedic and that's not like us, and while the non-Vedic, that's more like us, so that would be more natural because, that's the international thing. Just on that international thing, I saw a really interesting map. And on this map, it had divided the world up, basically by continents and that. By how much area needed to have 1 billion people, right? Because there's 7 billion people, so 1 billion people. So China had 1 billion, India has 1 billion, then the rest of Asia, between India and China, and then Indonesia, there's 1 billion people. Actually, between them, there's more than 1 billion. Then I think... So that's over half of the world population is just between India and China, so Asian. Then Russia and all its old places was another 1 billion. Then Europe was 1 billion. African was 1 billion. And then the part that struck me was the whole of North America, the whole of South America, Greenland, and Australia took that much to get 1 billion people. So the idea that this lifestyle of this particular 1 billion people is the international code, when all those other places don't actually agree with that, I found it was very strange. How does someone come up with that? You have to have a lot of false ego to think that we're the minority and we make up we're the important minority, what we do. So then, what we're doing is addressing that if you're sincerely trying to follow and you're doing the best you can, even though it's not ideal, then Krishna sees that. But if we have an attachment to something that's not ideal, Krishna will address that. And then we'll come to the point of understanding it's not real. But if we make a philosophy that, no, this unideal practice is actually the ideal, in fact, it's equal to and not, actually it's better than the ideal practice, is all you're doing is piling upadi on top of upadi and then trying to pawn it off as pure devotional service. So that's philosophically wrong. We're not even looking at a cultural aspect here, just, you grew up in, your environment, so you kind of like to eat your food and this and that. That's just by you just doing that because you're doing that, just by habit. But when you make a philosophy that this is better, this is more natural, this is more real. Because we're talking natural. Do little kids wear clothes? No. No. Do they like to sit at the table and eat nicely? No. Do they want to sit down and be quiet? No. So therefore, training a child to grow up, wear clothes, sit at the table, eat properly, learn to talk properly, do all these things is totally unnatural. So why is the unnatural that we've gone through the real natural, and then the Vedic training, that's the unnatural? You understand? So we're dealing with some very serious coverings of ignorance here. And they're philosophically wrong. The basis of them are not right at all. We'll say, we don't care for the rules, but only a Paramahamsa is the one that doesn't have to follow the rules. So if by saying I don't care for the rules that you're saying you're a Paramahamsa, then great. But generally we see by Rupa Goswami, Paramahamsas don't say they're Paramahamsas, and so they take the mood of a Kanista and they follow the rules. So then who would say we don't need to follow the rules because we chant Hare Krishna? Okay, but so many people chant Hare Krishna, but it's only the Paramahamsas who chant Hare Krishna don't have to follow. So what are we really saying here? So we're saying, I want to be independent, I want to do whatever I like, and I'm going to use the Krishna consciousness philosophy to back it up. Right? And because I've said that, now you have to step down. Because if you continue it, they'll freak out emotionally because they can't handle it because they don't actually have proper philosophy or proper understanding. It's, as the Bhagavatam says, immature, foolish. Now, if we have that just by accident, just where like that, that's common. That's what the meaning of a neophyte devotee is. They naturally come with that. But then to take it and make a philosophy and claim that this is preaching and we're on the Madhyam platform, that's doesn't that's like saying the shoes are as pure as my hat. It's just it doesn't have any meaning. Is that?
Thank you for the many points you made, Maharaj.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yes.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. He's got.
What if this young man that Ekalavya Prabhu was talking about, who's right now in the hospital, and he's hopefully temporarily paralyzed from the waist down, but if someone does get paralyzed from the waist down, and it's like forced brahmacharya, but their consciousness, their minds, their inclinations is toward being a grihasta, griyameti, whatever. What?
Griya something.
Something.
Some variety of griha has to be
what
involved.
What will happen to that person?
They can get married. I mean, I think Jagadish Prabhu, his son had that happen, and he got married. They have children.
But what if that's not possible? That they can't have children because waist down means.
Yeah, but the point is he's waist down, and how you say the modern medicine is one of the areas that they put a lot of attention on, seeing that these kind of things are so they get it to work. There's God made petri dishes and other stuff.
Artificial insemination.
Yeah, so the point is it works out. I'm just saying, if they need to go that direction, it can go, but then you have to have a partner that's cool that you're in a wheelchair, right? In other words, you're never going to open the door for them. They're going to be always opening it for you. So if they're cool, then why not?
Yeah.
So it happens.
My experience is a lot of these people that are in wheelchairs, they're very deeply frustrated.
That's there, but the point is that's attachment. So it's natural because you have material desire you're trying to fulfill. But the point is you do have those that go beyond that. So the same principle that we say in Krishna consciousness, if they take advantage of it, then they'll do fine also. And if you absorb yourself on the material platform, which we don't recommend for anyone, whether they're devotee or not, they will be frustrated. Therefore, the principles of Krishna consciousness, because it's what can you do about it? It's not like you can do something about it. It means, of course, they will go through all the medical procedures, so try everything that they can, all the different medicines and this and that. They'll start with the allopath and all this and that. When that doesn't work, then they'll start going into all the mumbo jumbo. And then when that doesn't work, at some point they'll give up. So then, if anything works, then great. But then one should appreciate the ability to walk around and this and that, because why would this happen unless there's something there, that there's some improper mentality connected with this. So by this one is purified, and these kind of things are very serious, so there's serious purification going on there. So that means someone could very easily take up the more advanced devotional outlook. That's the option, because anything so extreme is extremely purifying. Right? And so then they could take it up. And if they don't, then, it just means it'll take a little longer. But getting frustrated, at what point is frustration going to be of benefit? The only benefit to frustration is that it opens the door to taking up spiritual life. That's what Narad Muni mentions in explaining the Varnas, the Varna Dharma to Yudhishthira Maharaj. After explaining the four Varnas and like this, then at the end he explains for the non-practitioners of the Vedic culture that they, by pouring ghee on the fire so much, at some point it puts it out. So if at that moment you catch them and explain Krishna consciousness to them directly, then they can see the difference between the two, and then they can take up Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, if you miss that window, then the fire will come back up again, and then they'll get inspired again. So it can all be used in advantage to Krishna consciousness. So whatever state you're in, if you're in the state of this difficulty, then you take advantage of that to be Krishna conscious. And if by Krishna's grace it adjusts itself and you become back to being able to move around and do things, then you're happy in Krishna consciousness there. Yes.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you.
Hare Krishna.
You're mentioning about the select few trying to impose their standards on others.
Right.
Isn't the same happening in most religious traditions, including ISKCON, that we have people of a certain age group or a certain geographical location or background who are trying to tell everybody else what to do, even if they themselves aren't that interested in following their own laws? We see it happening in most of the traditions.
No, it's a standard thing. It means the mistake will come because, see, it means, let's go back to a more primordial kind of aspect. So the living entity being able to see the spiritual and material, then what happens is that when you're dealing in the spiritual platform, there's the direct aspect of the devotion to Krishna, that affection, the emotions and that felt. Then there's going to be the forms that it's expressed through. Like Mother Jashoda, she sees Krishna, she wants to cook for him. So the cooking's the secondary. It's how you manifest her love for Krishna. So her love for Krishna was the primary. Her expression of that's the secondary. So those secondaries, those aspects can be used to express love for anybody. Even yourself. You go into the kitchen, cook yourself a fabulous meal because you love yourself so much. You deserve this. I worked hard today. I deserve this, right? So you can do that. So that's the problem with the secondary, is it's the mechanics and the techniques and the application that get at results. But prema is an experience. It's beyond results. It's the ultimate, what results are for. So then, when we see the secondary aspects and we think that's where happiness lies, then we're in material consciousness. So that's the meaning of seeing the other side of the viraja, is that you're seeing that these things could be exercised without Krishna as the primary. So in other words, I use Mother Jashoda's cooking, and what she cooked was fabulous. I'd like to cook that for myself or my friends. That's the other side. That's the material. Rather than Mother Jashoda has so much affection for Krishna, how can I assist and develop that kind of affection? That's the primary. So now, because the secondary is the formula of the material world, then the transcendentalists, the devotees, they come and then they introduce about the primary, which is Krishna. And so then the whole idea is that you're connecting. Yukta Vairagya means you connect that secondary that you're doing to the primary, which is Krishna, rather than our idea, which is us. And then that makes it spiritual, that makes it perfect. So if pure devotion means you're putting the emphasis on the primary aspect of pleasing Krishna. It's about Krishna. And you're doing whatever it is you're able to do and things like that. The mixed devotional service, or the mixed consciousness, is where you're putting the emphasis on the secondary. And so to that degree you put it on the secondary, to that degree it'll create problem. So that's what one sees, is that the fault can be there, that one is following religious principles, and that's a good thing. That's progressive. That's what humans are supposed to do. But if you think it's about the secondary aspects, that's the all in all, and then how you're doing it, that's the best. That falls into the problem like what you're talking about. And especially if you're wrong. Right? So if it's following secondary aspects that the acharyas recommend, it will be annoying, but at least technically it's right. The mentality is wrong, but the action is right. But now if we're not following what's recommended and we have this wrong mentality, then both are wrong. And so that really is annoying. Right? And that doesn't attract anyone. Because people can recognize there's the religious principles, and so you're following them. I remember seeing one article out of, probably was a Los Angeles or a San Francisco journalist, a lady. And she had met with some Mormons after their yearly GBC meeting. And this was back, I think, in the 90s when, political correctness was coming up. And so therefore, it came up on their agenda to discuss about, what women would do, what their position is, and all these different things like that. And after discussing and all that, then they decided to continue with their standard lifestyle, not change it because in the modern, it was changing. And so the journalist who wrote it was, a lady, journalist, naturally going to be liberal, naturally going to be more of a feminist. And she says, personally, I don't agree with their decision. But she said, I have to respect that despite whatever anybody else says, they're willing to stick to their position because this is their tradition. She said, I respect that in them, though I myself won't do that. So that's something that has to be understood, is that people respect those who stick to their principles. And you do it properly, even if it's not in the modern context considered right. And if you do that, that's respected. So of the two, wrong attitude, wrong practice, and wrong attitude, right practice, better the wrong attitude, right practice, because all you have to do is adjust the attitude, which is the harder of the two. But at least it's you have something to go on. You have common aspect in the way of religion. How you're applying that's the attitude is a problem, but you can slowly get around that. But if someone's attached to their secondary forms, and especially if they're not religious, then that really can be a stumbling block, because why else would you be attached to it than for your own purpose? It's not, you can't use the terms yukta, vairagya, this, that, and say that it's perfectly fine. No, it means you are connecting to Krishna, that's good. That will get purification, but don't try to compare it with pure devotion, which means it's just about Krishna. It should be seen as a difference. One should be able to identify the difference between a kanasta and a madhyam, at least in platform. Not try to say they're the same. Otherwise, then isn't that sentimental? And then the presentation they're presenting is as if they're scientific? As if they're intelligent and logical, when it's absolutely sentimental? So it is something that will happen, because you have the principle is that I'm a devotee, I do devotional service. So that part's all right. But when you get to the point where I'm a devotee, I do devotional service, that part of the syllogism is okay. But when you go into I'm a devotee, therefore whatever I do is devotional service, that's where it falls apart. So that's where you have to discriminate between what you're doing because it's recommended and what you're doing is because of your conditioning. And so then if you get too much onto that path, and especially if everybody's patting each other on the back as they're going down the wrong path, then you end up with what you're talking about. So that's why Rupa Goswami and Upadeshamrita, as a summary of Nectar Devotion, then he gave that point about niyamagraha. That if you're following the rules but don't know what they're for, or you reject the rules because you don't know what they're for, they both are a problem for devotional service. So both have to be given up. But at least one's more pious than the other. That's all. Is that okay? Yes. Okay. So we'll end here. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Samaveta Bhaktivinoda ki, Jainatai Gaura Premanandi, Hari Hari Gaura Hari Gaura.